Hey, what's going on everybody? Today I am recording from Chiang Mai. I am actually all the way at top near Doi Suthep. It's a smaller temple called Wat Palad, and this is actually less touristy, and they have a sign when you first enter in saying, please be quiet, this is a meditation area, and there's actually monks living here. It's very peaceful, quiet. There's waterfalls everywhere, there's a temple, there's a stupa up there, and I remember coming here a few times with the Green Papaya Sangha, and we did like a day of mindfulness walk through the trails on this side. I'll do a video tour of this place later, but it's really tranquil, and there's actually a beautiful view right over there of Chiang Mai. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting right now, but yeah, you can see it all the way from up top. So the reason why I'm recording today is because I got interviewed a couple weeks ago, actually a couple months ago, by one of these girls I met last year in Bali. Her name is Christine, and she's Taiwanese American, and she reached out to me because she's putting together a piece called Asian Americans Abroad, and obviously I fit those two categories. So she reached out to me, and she had her assistant send over some questions, and I've been meaning to write back to them because I've been so busy with stuff, but I was thinking that I was like, you know what, why don't I just shoot a video blog and just verbally give my answers, which might be a lot more fun than me sitting down writing it out. So let me give you the questions first. Has anyone from home ever reached out to you asking about your move? If so, what questions did they ask? Why did you move? What steps did you take to prepare, such as job hunting, setting up business, researching a country? Do you have any regrets or anything you do different? What did your family and friends think of your move? What questions did they have, and how did you answer them? What opportunities do you think Asian Americans gain by moving abroad to Asia or any other country? So yeah, those are the questions that she sent over to me, and you know, I always like to share my story and talk about it, because I think, you know, there's a lot of people who want to do the same thing, but they don't know exactly how to do it. Has anyone from home ever reached out to you asking about your move? If so, what questions did they ask? It's been 3 years since I've left New York, and you know, yeah, people have definitely asked me about moving. I've ran into other travelers here, traveling, you know, just on short vacations, but they asked me, you know, how did I go about my move? But I'll give you there's two people who actually remember asking me questions. One was my friend Vinny back in Brooklyn, and he's about my age. And last year when I was in Bali, he reached out to me, and he was going through some, like, a period in his life where he was starting to really question things about where he was going in life, and if he was happy with his career. We set up a Skype session. That way I could like help him out with whatever questions. And one of his questions was, you know, financially, how did you go about making this move from the US and traveling for so long? And for that, you know, I saved up a lot of money. When I was living back in the US, I had a good paying job for various financial firms, and you know, I did like to buy really nice stuff, but I was also very smart with my money. My parents, you know, they had that Asian immigrant mentality where, you know, you save your money and you don't blow it on stupid stuff. So I was able to have a pretty big sized chunk before I left the US. Now, you know, I was basically living retired off of that savings, you know, just traveling and enjoying myself. But you know, I think a year and a half into it, that's when I started working on my online businesses. And I didn't do that because it was financially necessary. I did it because I wanted to continue growing. I didn't want to be stagnant. I wanted to continue learning new skills and keeping my mind challenged, not getting soft. Or started doing e-commerce in the form of dropshipping. And I bought a course for that called Dropship Lifestyle, or the Anton Method. It was only $500, and I followed all the videos and directions, and within 2 months I had my own business set up, selling products from the US to US customers. And that was a really good starting point for me to learn about this whole digital nomad life. And that's one of the reasons why I moved up here to Chiang Mai, was because there's it's a hotbed for that type of stuff, to work online, whether you're doing drop shipping or, you know, you're doing freelance work, doing SEO or copywriting, or you're a graphic designer, or, you know, whatever. So yeah, so one question I always get asked is financially, how did you do it? And you know, another thing is, when you live in countries like Thailand or Bali, or even South America, they're so much cheaper than US. I was paying $1,200 for my rent back in Hoboken, New Jersey, and that's considered cheap. Out here, $1,200 is my entire month's expenses with my rent, with going out, getting massages, eating out at restaurants, not cooking. I'm a clean lady, have my own internet. I live like a king out here for nothing. So even if I wasn't making an online business, I would still be able to live off my savings. It's feasible. There's a way to do it, and it doesn't have to be, you know, staying in 5-star hotels or whatever. Next question is, why did you move? So there was two main things that I wanted to do out here, and that was my love of Muay Thai. I wanted to just pursue Muay Thai, train full time, and just do that, because I worked for 8 years after college, and I just grinded myself into like an unhealthy state. So I just wanted to take time off and just focus on Muay Thai, and that's why I came to Thailand. Another thing that I also wanted to do was get into meditation. I never did meditation before, and that was always something that was interesting to me. So I wanted to do that. So before I left the U.S., I remember I wrote down my goals, and one goal was to have as many Muay Thai fights as possible, and the other goal was to attend a 10-day Vipassana retreat, a silent meditation retreat, and I was able to do both those things. So yeah, those were the two main driving factors behind me moving to Thailand. I mean, there's so many other reasons why, but those were the main two reasons. And I think the other reason that I should probably mention is just to like I said, I was really burnt out, and I just needed a place that I could that I could just chill, sleep, relax, live a really stress-free lifestyle, and just enjoy myself. And with Thailand, you know, you get the beaches, you get the mountains, you get the super friendly Thai people, you have the delicious food, which is freaking amazing everywhere, and you can get a massage for super cheap. So like that's like what my daily schedule or weekly schedule entailed, those things. So yeah, that's a big reason why I moved to Thailand. If you've never been here, I could talk about it for all day, but until you actually get on that plane and come here, then you really understand. So please come visit, and then you'll understand why I moved here. What steps did you take to prepare before moving here? Well, you know, before I came to Thailand, I had gotten into Muay Thai, and I was just I was reading a lot of blogs about Thailand before I actually came out here. I'd be in my office, I remember it, and I would just be like reading blog article after blog article about Muay Thai in Thailand. So I did a lot of research on the internet to prepare, and then, you know, all the reason why is because I was also contemplating moving out here permanently. I didn't really tell anybody, but I was just like, you know, when I come out here for a month, because I only got a month off when I was working my vacation, so I came here to see if this was a place that I'd want to live here permanently. You know, I wasn't just gonna quit my job and then move to Thailand and live here without actually checking it out first. So that's why I did a month-long vacation first before quitting my job. So I came here to really suss things out, to see if it was a place that, you know, I would be comfortable living by myself with, and you know, making a big jump like that. It's a pretty big life decision to move across the world. So I want at least dip my toes in it and just check it out. So that was the most, you know, I would say researching on blog articles and actually coming to the country to visit temporarily. Those are two big things I did to prepare. You know, in terms of like actually, you know, when I left and packing up quitting my job and all the logistical stuff, I actually have an article I wrote on my blog, Journey to 8 Limbs, and I have a list of preparing of stuff I actually wrote out that I did that's kind of useful for anyone else thinking about doing the same thing. But you know, there's so much you could talk about that. But I would say, if you can, try and visit the host country that you think you're going to move to first. That way, you know, you kind of go into it more confident and you really know what you're getting yourself into. Do you have any regrets or anything you do differently? Hell no. I have no regrets moving to Thailand or leaving the US. You know, I only planned for the first year of moving to Asia, and I was like, I don't know if I'll come back or not. And obviously, it's 3 years later. I have no regrets. It's the best decision of my life. And, you know, if I had to do things differently, I don't think I would. I couldn't have planned everything, and, you know, you can't be you can't predict the future of how things are going to turn. So you just gotta have trust and have faith in the universe that things are going to work out. So for me, no, I don't think I would not do anything differently. It's actually I think everything actually turned out perfectly for how it's unfolded for me, and I'm very grateful for that. So I would say just plan for the first 3 to 6 months, maybe a year, but don't keep a set schedule in stone. Allow lots of flexibility. Learn to let go. You'll learn to let go real fast. Plans change, people change. You might be people that you then decide want to visit another country. So there's honestly nothing I would change about what I did. What did your family and friends think of your move? What questions did they have, and how do you answer them? All right, so that conversation that I had to have with my parents when I was going to tell them that I was going to quit my job and leave the U.S. I'm very honest with my family and my friends, and I'm close with my parents. So, I wasn't like, oh, how am I going to wear this? I wasn't really stressed out about it, So I told them, I was like, I'm moving to Thailand, and I'm gonna do this. And my mom's reaction or question was, when am I gonna see you again? And I said, I don't know. And I know that's not the answer she probably wanted to hear, but that was the honest truth, because I really didn't know. It could be 1 year, it could be 5 years that I would come back. I really had no idea. It ended up being a year, and it ended up being 18 months before I actually came back to visit temporarily. And that was only because my brother had gotten married. If he didn't get married, I probably would have stayed out here longer without any breaks. And then my dad's reaction to me telling him was, what do you do for work? Of course my dad, would being the workaholic, he wants to know what I'm going to be doing for work. So I said, I don't know either. And I said, I'll figure it out. I'd read on the first trip to Thailand, I met people who were working online. And that planted the seed in my head, because I was like, well, if these people are doing it, I can do it. So, it's not like I went out here completely not knowing what I would do, but I had a little bit of idea of, hey, there's people making money on the internet. I'll probably go in that direction eventually. And when I went home, I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, which was a huge game changer for me. That really opened up my eyes to this whole thing of lifestyle design. So even though I had no plan to work, I knew that eventually I would work, and that eventually that the possibility of making money on the internet would be an option. And the reason why I didn't want to work for however long it took me is because I was in such a state of mind of just being really jacked up in my head, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I was just very broken. So my plan was to let myself sleep and just rest up and get to a healthy, normal state of mind, because then I can actually find work that I will want to do and be passionate about. Because if I try to force myself into finding work or creating a business when I first moved to Thailand, I wouldn't have been able to do it, or it would have taken very long, because I just didn't have the mental capacity to take on another thing. I was too busy trying to fix this project, my whole self, and get that up and running. And once I had a nice solid foundation, then I would move on to the career. So that was my step. That's why I didn't give myself any time frame. I just trusted that, when I'm healthy, when I feel the time is right, that's when I know I'll be ready to work. So, that's why work for me was not high on my priority. Getting myself healthy was. And that's because for 8 years in New York, I put work before my own health. And I did not want to make that same mistake while living in a beautiful country like this. No way was I going to be holed up in a cubicle all day when I could be on the beaches. So that was my thinking. Those were the questions that my parents asked me. Now, a lot of my friends, they were very supportive of when I told them, obviously some were like, you're crazy, why are you going to go to Thailand, and, they busted my chops, a little bit, hey, we lady boys? Yeah, I like lady boys. But, most of them were supportive. No one had like an intervention like, Chris, we're going to stop you from moving, or you're throwing your life away. No one said that. So I'm very lucky to have the support of my friends as well. And then another cool thing was when I went into, I waited till the day after New Year's to tell my boss that I was going to quit my job, because I wanted to make it symbolic. I wanted to start the new year in a new place with a new beginning. So I waited till after New Year's to tell him, to give my resignation. So, you know, I walked into Vinny's office and I'm like, hey Vinny, can we talk? And I'm like, yeah, I'm quitting my job. And the reason is because I'm moving to Thailand. And he was like, nah, stop messing around. Really, why are you leaving? And I was like, no, I'm quitting. He's like, all right, well, whatever firm you go to, whatever competing firm on Wall Street that you're going to work for, can you get me a job as well? And I really had to like tell Vinny, like, listen, I'm not joking. I'm really quitting. And as crazy as it sounds, I am moving to Thailand. So yeah, so that was his reaction. But yeah, everyone else was pretty cool about it. Some people were like, wow, I'm jealous. I wish I could do that. Yeah, I know some people who've done this life path, this move, they've had a lot of resistance from friends and family, but I'm very blessed to have the support of everyone. And you know, my parents even came to visit me like a year after I moved out, or 8 months. They came to visit me in Phuket, and I took them up here to Chiang Mai. So it was cool, you know, like they totally, it was cool because I got to show them my day-to-day life and why I made a big change to Thailand. And I think they really understood after they came to see me and saw how happy I was and saw my day-to-day life. You know, they really saw the value in what this place gave me, and they understood why I made a big life change. And you know, I don't think they think I'm crazy anymore, but it was all good. What opportunities do you think Asian Americans gain by moving abroad to Asia or any other country? That's a really interesting question. So I am Chinese American. I look Chinese, and I have American values and habits, and I talk American. So my dad's from Hong Kong. He immigrated to the US when he was like 4 or 5, and yeah, so he's fresh off the boat. He's immigrant. And my mom, she is Chinese like me, but she was born in the US. So I was born in the US as well, obviously. So even though I'm Chinese American, you know, friends would always be like, oh, you're very Americanized, you know, like, oh, you don't act Chinese. So coming to Thailand and coming to Asia was, like, for me, it was a really cool thing because I was able to reconnect with my Asian heritage, with my Chinese heritage. Because growing up, I grew up in upstate New York, which is like 2 hours from the city. It's not very diversified. It's predominantly white or black. You don't really see Asian people. You don't see Hispanic people. So, like, for me, I didn't have, you know, those culture, those norms and those different cultural things that you normally have. If I say growing up in New York City, where all the Asians are, I didn't have those, so I didn't really know who I was in terms of, like, you know, ethnicity. And you know, actually growing up, it was really hard because I was like the sole minority. You know, I remember actually being very embarrassed and being very ashamed of being Chinese because I would get constantly picked on and name called. And I remember just being like, why can't I just blend in and be a white person or something like that, you know? So, like, it kind of messed me up in the head growing up. So when I came back here to Asia, it helped me become more comfortable with who I am, be comfortable with, you know, in my own skin. And, you know, I'm really grateful for coming to Thailand because I was able to pick up on some of my heritage. Because in Thailand, there's a blend of Chinese Thai people, and you know, Chinese people did immigrate over to Thailand, you know, like hundreds of years ago, and they've left their mark here. So there are Thai traditions that resemble Chinese traditions, and it's cool. Like, the Thais actually celebrate Chinese New Year here, and you know, they get the fireworks going off, and it's cool. Like, some of the dishes, some of the Thai food that I eat out here, like pad see ew gai, which is these fat noodles, and it's made in like a soy sauce. My dad actually cooks those noodles, and like when I moved out here, I was like, oh shit, that's like a dish my dad makes, which is really good. So I get to eat that. They also have, my other favorite things are called these egg tarts, which are called dan tats in Chinese, and they sell them at like KFC and at the night markets, and that's like a pastry you would have for breakfast or with dim sum. So, you know, I got to recognize some of these Chinese things growing up. I got to see them out here, and you know, to be reminded of that, where I came from, and now accept myself and be happy for who I am. It was really, Thailand's just like a really special place for me in terms of that regard of reconnecting with my Asian heritage. So I think, you know, that is definitely a benefit that I've got from Thailand. Now, for other Asian Americans abroad, what benefit can you get from living in Asia or anywhere? I would say the other big thing is personal growth. For me, well, let me just say this. In a lot of typical Asian families, there's a lot of pressure on the children to study really hard, to get into an Ivy League school, to get a really high paying job, buy a house, you know, like you just want, you're so focused on just getting money and just moving up, you know, in society and status and money, but at the same time you're not balanced because you're so focused on the academics and the intellect. You don't have time to focus on the social, like learning how to connect with people, making friends, how to date women, you know, how to host a party, you know, like basic things that we take for granted. You know, a lot of Asian guys I know, you know, they're socially awkward or they don't have those social skills, and you know, those are just as valuable to have in life as the business skills. You need both. And I think when you move out of a country and come to live abroad by yourself, you're then able to focus on those things which you didn't have the time or freedom to explore when you're living back home with your family. And you know, I think that's important. So like, you know, you don't, as an Asian, you know, when you move abroad, you can kind of, trying to phrase this in a way that's you can take time to know yourself and figure out what your desires and passions and goals are in your life, as opposed to having your parents or your grandparents, you know, force down their values and their dreams for you. Because, you know, the American dream is very appealing to immigrant families. You know, that's why my grandparents, that's why they risked their lives to come over to America, because they heard America has so many opportunities. So, you know, for the younger generation, it's hard for us to say, listen, I appreciate what you guys did for us, to our older elders, but you know what, those dreams are not my dreams, and I don't want that. And you know, it's very hard to say that to your family, because you know, you might come off as ungrateful, or they might think you're stupid for giving up these opportunities. But you know, you have to figure out what makes you happy, and because if you just go through life trying to please people and live their dreams, you're gonna find out one day that you're not happy and you're miserable, and that you've been sold a bag of stuff that is not in alignment with who you are. So I would suggest that, you know, if you're an Asian American and you're feeling some of that pressure, you know what, take a month off, go travel the world, or go live in another country, and you know what, be selfish. It's okay to be selfish, because you're still young and you can still do this. And you know, there's nothing wrong trying to figure out who you are and what you want in life, because that's what everyone deserves. So as an Asian American, I would say, you know, that's one big benefit of moving to a foreign country. That's all the questions I have from Christine. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. I would love to answer them. I hope you enjoyed this video blog, this interview, and I'll leave with some shots of Chiang Mai. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.